session. This session is titled The Xendit Story, from Unicorn Milestone to Upping Stakes in Financial Services Game. With me to discuss everything about Xendit is Tessa Wijaya, COO and co-founder of Xendit. Tessa, great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Perhaps we could start off with a brief introduction of Xendit and yourself.
Yeah, definitely, sure. So Xendit is a payment infrastructure player that's based in Southeast Asia. We are a financial technology player that provides payment services for SMEs and enterprises alike. So we're a B2B player. We connect the likes of banks, e-wallets to the merchants platform, as well as to the likes of Visa and MasterCard. So basically, we provide the piping for money to be able to move from one place to another. We are backed by venture capitals. At the moment, we're processing about $12 billion per annum in our platform, and very excited to be present in both Indonesia and the Philippines.
A little bit about yourself. When did you join and your role as your CEO?
Right. So yeah, I joined, I think 5-6 years ago. So really when we pivoted from being a consumer play to a business play, I was an investment banker before that. I come from Indonesia, had been in Indonesia for about 7 years, came back from overseas from school, decided to really jump into the tech space because I thought, that was the way forward. And Xendit seemed like a very interesting mission. I think having come from overseas, coming back to Indonesia, really looking at friction that's available in payment, I thought this is a really great mission to have, to be able to fix this infrastructure so we can help all the business of tomorrow that will be transacting digitally.
Just to touch what you said there, helping the SMEs, can you talk about the journey that Xendit went through during the pandemic? Obviously, with the pandemic, everyone moved to online. There were a lot of SMEs going digital, and I assume Xendit had a large role to play in the SMEs going digital.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, before the pandemic occurred, in markets like Indonesia and Philippines, for SMEs, going online was really a good to have, not a must have. A lot of these SMEs, they're either selling through social media or they'll always have offline channels like bazaars, small mom and pop shop. Now through the pandemic, obviously that access was closed. There were no longer offline stores. We were all restricted to stay at home. And for SMEs, suddenly became a must. So that's where a platform like Xendit is really essential. We are really trying to help out SMEs to go digital by making it easy to onboard on our platform, making it easy to use payments. So it's not just people, with IT background, with devs, dev resources who are able to come online on our platform, but for these smaller players to be able to do so as well. We provide this through an app. So we have a mobile app that's available to merchants, and smaller merchants can come online, use this app, accept payments, even when they can't integrate it to their website. So they can actually just send a payment link. And through the pandemic, it's been a fantastic response. We're seeing signups of up to 10,000 merchants a month. So we've been very, very excited in being able to help these SMEs come online and go digital instantly in a matter of days.
10,000 merchants a month, that is a staggering number. How much did transaction on your platform increase during the pandemic?
Yeah, it increased up to about 250% year on year. So really, I realized for a lot of people, for a lot of businesses, it's been really, really tough. For Xendit, the way we looked before the pandemic and now we've grown so fast. We're now about 800 people. It's been an amazing ride.
In Indonesia, you guys included, Fintech has been a very hot sector in recent years, even before the pandemic, but more so after the pandemic. I was wondering if you can talk a bit about Indonesia's Fintech landscape with regards to Xendit. You guys are obviously a payment gateway, but what attracted attention from investors before that was digital payments, obviously. So you have OVO and GoPay, those digital payments that were really of interest to really global investors. And you also have digital banks coming up. P2P lenders are also very big in Indonesia. So what's your overall take on the fintech landscape, the competition going forward? And specifically on Xendit, why did you choose to become a payment gateway rather than take on other verticals like digital payments or digital banks?
Yeah, so I'll speak about why Xendit is here in the beginning. I think a lot of us forgot when Xendit first started in 2015, 2016, the tech space was nowhere near as robust as now, definitely not the payment space. In Indonesia, most people were still making payments via bank transfer. And it was extremely, extremely difficult to transfer money from one bank to another, one platform to another. Payments was extremely exclusive and it was not interoperable at all. So that's why Xendit is here. We thought that, if we want to make a change in the market, before an economy can thrive, the payment system needed to be fixed. I think a lot of people have been really interested in coming into the B2C space because it's very glamorous. Your impact is very visible to everybody, but really our impact is just as big, but we're doing it, I suppose, a little bit behind the radar because we are building the infrastructure. Now, in terms of the fintech space itself, I think Southeast Asia is a really exciting space for payments because we basically skip cards for other methods of payment. So you can have a lot of innovation. I mean, even the Bank of Indonesia is providing things like a standardized QR code. So I think if you're coming into the market and you want to do something exciting in tech, really payments in Southeast Asia is where we should be. In terms of the expansion of other fintech, I think because of because ride-hailing apps started coming to Indonesia, and we always obviously have homegrown Gojek, people were more trained to go online. People were more trained to transact through apps. So I think it really allowed other types of fintech to flourish in market, right? So right now we don't just have payments. We have, of course, we have the wallet space, us the B2B space, but we also have investing platforms coming up. We have peer-to-peer platforms coming up, as you said. It's been a really exciting ride, and I think actually we're just in the very early stages, and there's a lot more to come.
That's a good point, because I was talking to a Japanese bank executive, and he was new to Southeast Asia, and he couldn't believe the Japanese banks obviously have a lot of legacy, and that's why they're lagging behind the innovation game in Japan. And they come here and they look at they have no legacy whatsoever. They could implement what the newest cutting edge technology. So they were really surprised at that. But just to come from that onto the banks, digital banks has obviously been a hot topic again. Quota is invested in Bank Jago. C has they have Bank C now, Grab and Bukalapak. They invested in digital bank together. So everyone's getting in on the digital bank game. Where does Xendit stand with regards to digital banks?
Yeah, and again, for us, it's all about the infrastructure side. There are a lot of other platforms, by the way, who are also trying to provide things like banking as a service, digital KYC and all the likes. For us, it's about supporting that growth as well. We work with banks to be able to create bank accounts in an online manner. We work with a lot of platforms to be able to do digital KYC, to be able to provide those services so customers can come online. So I think for us, this development of everyone moving into digital banking, it's a really exciting time. I think, the ecosystem, there are a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities to provide these services. We want to help with things like issuing credit cards or issuing debit cards. We essentially want to make making payments online and doing transactions online much more simple. And by providing those rails, it'll enable other platforms to be able to provide that to consumers in an easy manner. And therefore, consumers can have a better access to the banking system.
Does that mean you're not interested in becoming a digital bank yourself or investing in digital bank yourself? I understand you have a partnership with a rural bank called Bank Pekerjaan Rakyat, right?
Right. Well, look, listen, the DNA to be a B2C company versus a B2B company, I think is extremely different. For us, we even feel that helping out SMEs versus enterprise is an extremely different ballgame. For enterprise, they want very complex sets of products that provide for their needs, very complex APIs, a lot of different types of systems to fit the needs of different types of companies. SMEs, for example, they just want to get paid. And for us to be able to understand that DNA, it was already a very interesting challenge. So to be moving to B2C, I think, again, you need a different kind of team, different kind of company to be able to do that well. So for us, it's about providing the infrastructure and the platform for those guys to do well in Indonesia. And if they thrive, then we can also continue to thrive.
Can you just give us the big picture on why, or whether you think digital banks is the way forward for Indonesia's financial system? Because obviously only a portion of Indonesia's population have a bank account, and the vast majority are either underbanked or unbanked. And most of them live in rural areas where, to some extent, internet connection is still a bit sketchy, I think. So one of the things that I keep coming up is that people are pushing digital banks and they're saying this is for the underbanked, the unbanked, but I'm skeptical of whether they can actually reach those people and be of benefit to those people. So can you give me your view as a financial expert on that?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I'd have to agree with you to some point. I think the digital banks are still tapping into that middle class, people who are already banked, to make it easier for them to transact, obviously online as well as offline. When I go to the US, buying something online is such a great, smooth experience. You don't even realize you're actually spending money. But here in Indonesia, it can still be a bit tricky. So these digital banks who are enabling consumer to transact from their apps, who can then apply for credit cards, debit cards on their apps, I think it's been fantastic. But I'm not sure that that's still addressing the underbanked or the unbanked. I think I agree with you as well that Indonesia, there's about 17,000 islands. Sometimes you can't even get Wi-Fi, or people are still living hand to mouth, earning less than $10 a day. How can they be a participant in the digital banking system? But I think it's still a really good development to have these digital banks that are increasing the quality of services that are going to be provided in market, making it more simple for the economy, the wheels of the economy to turn. But I do think for the unbanked, it'll be a very different segment and very different kinds of companies who address the needs of that market. It might be, for people who are providing wallets, or it might be all these apps who are providing for small businesses to be able to move online. But I think that journey is going to take a little bit longer, and it'll probably require a lot of different parties to participate, like as you pointed out, rightly, for the government to fix the infrastructure first, for education to happen in these rural areas. I think for certain earnings to increase so that it pushes people to be able to transact online. And on the interim, though, I think the opportunity is endless to start expanding out to that market. I think that's going to be next in the next 5 to 10 years in Indonesia.
What is Xendit? How can Xendit serve those underbanked to unbanked people? Are those segments part of your business remit, or are they not?
So again, we help a lot of different platforms who are tapping into those markets to provide the infrastructure for them. So while they're thinking about, hey, how do we expand our services to these rural areas? We provide the payment rails for them. We provide digital KYC rails for them. We provide really the infra for them to be able to manage the sub merchants and other value-added services. Again, maybe we're a little bit behind the scenes, but we're definitely making a really big impact to enable these platforms to serve the underbanked or unbanked, and to really focus on those side of things, so we can take care of the foundational stuff for them.
I'm interested to know more about the KYC process with regards to the underbanked and unbanked, because that's a notoriously difficult segment to do KYC, right? So how does Xendit, when you help these companies trying to reach those segments, how does Xendit do KYC?
Yeah, so we do work with other KYC players to be able to connect to the government networks to be able to supply that. And just a reminder, a lot of payments are already going through our platform. So we're able to do a lot of different types of verification outside of that traditional space to be able to figure out if this person really is who they say they are. I think there's a lot of innovation in the industry for that as well. Everything from verification through your mobile phone through other types of information that you can gather from them to ensure that we know if this person is who they say they are. So I think it's a really exciting space where I think also Xendit is still in the very early stages in developing that. But again, through all the influx of payments, we're able to probably indicate who someone is a little bit better than other platforms.
Do you obviously gather a lot of data when transaction goes through your services and platforms? Again, I'm still stuck on this digital bank question, but that screams to me that you have so much data, you can do better credit scoring than most other companies. Why not get into the digital bank space? I understand you said, B2C and B2B is a bit different, but it just, screams to me that this is ripe for, expansion into digital banks.
Yeah, look, I mean, we also do a bit of lending, by the way, but we do this for merchants. So we do help provide working capital loans for merchants who are already on our platform. We're seeing a lot of these guys wanting to expand really fast, but it's very difficult to get access from financial institutions for that support. So you're correct. Again, because we see a lot of transactions, we're able to do credit scoring much better than regular banks, for example. We're seeing a lot more influx of transactions. So we're able to support these merchants in very real ways. But nowadays we don't need to be labeled as a digital bank, right? When we provide these services for businesses, essentially we can provide a lot of similar services. We're not looking to go to the consumer space. I don't think that's really the right time for us. But again, call us a payment player, a digital bank, whatever it is. We are able to provide some similar services to businesses to get them then to provide the similar services to consumers, if that makes sense to you.
Got it. Can you talk about a bit more about the financing side of your business? You said, some businesses that use your service find it hard to get loans from regular banks. Why is that?
Look, it's definitely extremely hard in Indonesia. For example, I myself tried to apply for a credit card once and got rejected. And I mean, hopefully I have a little bit of a better track record than some other people who are consumers as well. There are a few reasons for that. First things first, I think the traditional banking space, it's quite heavily regulated when it comes to lending. A lot of times you need collateral, right? Physical collateral to be able to get a loan. And so for the guys who are smaller, it's going to be very difficult to have access to that space. Secondly, again, it's about KYC. If you're living in a city, someone like me with a steady job, of course, it's going to be much easier for you to apply for a loan. But for example, if you're a business that's not even registered as a business, how are you going to get a loan? You don't even have the paperwork to say that you are a business. You can't tell a bank to go, why don't you look at my Instagram, see how many followers I have, see how many items I've sold, and give me a loan. But this is why fintechs like us and other lending platforms as well exist, right? Because we can get out of our way to provide innovative ways to be able to assess credit and provide access to capital for those who really need it.
I'm wondering whether this is a problem that should be solved by fintech players like you guys, or if it's just a government administrative issue in that this country, not just in Indonesia, but in Southeast Asia in general, over half of the economy is made up of informal sector, right? Is it better to bring them onto the formal side, or is it better to address them through services, fintech services like you guys?
I think everybody has a part to play. Like I said, the whole fintech space, or payment space, or financial access space. I think it has to be an ecosystem, from someone who's providing the KYC to the credit scoring to access to information to the ability to educate the consumer. I think everyone has a role to play. I think in terms of why we need to be here, the way fintech works, the way startups work, we're very customer centric. We care a lot about the customer experience. We care a lot about understanding the customer. I think to a different level than the traditional space or traditional players understand, right? We care to a point where do you place one button over another? That's how much we care about our customers. So I do think that when it comes to financial access, being able to provide products that customers really want, I think we play a really important role in doing that. And by we, not just Xendit, I mean other people on the tech space as well, because that's where innovation comes from, right? From the a bunch of us who spends that time to get to know our customers.
Got it. Coming back to Xendit, you guys are obviously a unicorn now. You become a unicorn last year. Congratulations. I think you're currently in the midst of a fundraising round, 200 million, and I think that's valuing you guys close to 3 billion at the moment. What's the exit plan for you guys? Maybe it's a bit too early to say, but you guys have been around for a while now, so what's the exit plan? Is it a regular IPO, or are you looking at stacks, and how long until the exit?
Right. So I think for us, the exit, the dream is it's pretty similar to other startups. The idea one day is hopefully we can go public. Hopefully, obviously, in the US as well as in Southeast Asia. It's pretty straightforward, I think, for most startups. Either you do that or you get acquired by a bigger player. For us, we're not really looking to explore that side of things yet. I think there's still a lot to be done. We're just in the midst of regionalization. For example, we're now in 2 markets. We think we have sort of the skill set and that playbook to be able to expand out to even more markets in Southeast Asia. So for us, I don't think it's about that exit yet. That's not really in our horizon. In our horizon is building more cool products in more countries in Southeast Asia to be able to take over that market.
Has anything changed before and after you became a unicorn? Have more investors started ringing you up, or what's changed?
What's changed? I think it's great to be able to be noticed a little bit more in the markets where we operate. So we do have a lot more opportunities. People want to collaborate with us. The government is really supporting us in the markets where we're operating. I think those parts are really, really exciting. Outside of that, maybe I'm still operating in my work from home bubble, but I feel like a lot of things are still about the same. Yeah, we're still putting our head down every day. It's about, continuing to do the work, the hard work to expand our products, to be able to provide our services even, in even higher quality to the merchants. So I think, yeah, that's about it. I mean, the other great part about being acknowledged as a unicorn is, being able to come out in platforms like this, being able to influence people to sort of think more about the tech space. And for me personally, being a woman leader, being able to influence others to encourage participation in the tech industry for other women. So yeah.
We'll get to that point later, but I just wanted to still talk about the valuation side of things. Do you think Southeast Asian tech companies are valued correctly, or do you think they are being overvalued? And I say that because of what's happened with Grab recently. We had Bukalapak IPO in Indonesia, but their share price has been constantly below their IPO price. You had Sea, obviously, in the US market, their share price has fallen dramatically as well. There's a sense that the pandemic has really been a boost for the Southeast Asian tech companies, but that shine has kind of worn off a bit in recent times. And you guys are obviously new unicorns. And I know you probably wouldn't say, we are overvalued or anything like that, obviously. But just in general, do you think investors are too excited about tech companies in this region, or are they valuing it at fair value?
Yeah, I definitely don't think startups in Southeast Asia are overvalued. I mean, we're still in the very early stages here, as I said. The majority of people are still transacting offline if we're talking about payments. And I know you're obviously touching more than just the payment space. But we're still in early days of innovation. I think there's still a lot to be done in market. Most people still don't have access to technology. So when you're looking at investors being excited, I think that's right. I think a lot of innovation are going to come from Southeast Asia. We're going to see us expanding much like China before us, right? Where there's a lot of innovation in the tech space, and then you're moving towards something that's a bit more consolidated. I think that's still 5 to 10 years to come. So I think investors are definitely moving in the right place.
When you look at Southeast Asia and compare it to other emerging countries like India or even Latin America, where the tech ecosystem is booming. What stands out for you in Southeast Asia? What makes Southeast Asia more attractive than those markets so that investors want to come in?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're talking about India, obviously the size population is huge, but outside of India and China, where else can investors go? I think this is where it's exciting, right? Southeast Asia, there are a lot of problems. Like I said, 17,000 islands in Indonesia, 25,000 all across Southeast Asia, a population that's ready to come online, that's been trained by the influx of ride hailing apps that are coming here. So I think that's really where the excitement comes from. And where payments, where technology is still a bit more fragmented, I think that's where innovation can really come out, right? In terms of payment itself, India's moved to a unified payment code. That's something that's super exciting. And Indonesia, that doesn't even exist yet. Out of that, then will come other types of innovation. And also after the pandemic, what's been interesting, by the way, is I've always thought that finance, fintech, it'll be more about B2B. It's going to be a little bit more traditional, improving things like banking into digital banking. But throughout the pandemic, you actually see large portions of Indonesians starting to get educated and going into the investment space, for example. So you're starting to see a lot of investing apps coming online. So again, I think Southeast Asia is a really exciting market to be in. I think it's the place to be. And I think there's going to be a lot more of these really exciting products coming out of the market that investors should be watching out for.
And obviously in Southeast Asia, you guys operate in Indonesia as well as Philippines, if I'm correct. Yeah. One of the things that I observed when I first came here was that a lot of these big startups, they mostly tend to stay within Indonesia. So Gojek was one of the odd one out in that they expanded. But Tokopedia, they're Indonesia only. You have Bukalapak, they're Indonesia only. Maybe some of the smaller startups that are coming up now, they're looking at overseas markets as well. But at least initially, quite a lot of startups were still focusing on Indonesia, which is understandable, right? Because it's such a big market with a large population. But can you just talk me through why Xendit decided to expand out of Indonesia and your future plans for expanding into other countries?
Yeah, I mean, look, how we do expansion, first and foremost, is basically by request from our customers. Xendit does serve a lot of regional as well as international clients or merchants, and it's really a push from them. They said, hey, your tech is really awesome. Your APIs are really easy to integrate to. You're also providing a lot of value-added services that we require to be able to play in market, especially because payments is so unique. Payments in Southeast Asia is extremely different than other markets. So we need you guys to be in Indonesia. We need you guys to go to these other markets and provide the same level of services. I think that's about right, because look, a lot of people assume that all of Southeast Asia is the same, but it's not. Yes, 25,000 islands, but also multiple countries that are experiencing different pain points. So for these merchants to be able to expand to other markets in Southeast Asia, they might be experiencing a lot of different challenges too, right? Someone who's going to the Philippines, for example, in the Philippines, the big pain point is still a lot about accepting money, whereas in Indonesia, it's actually about dispersing funds, right, for your refunds, for your cashback, and whatever else. So for these merchants to come into Indonesia and go, all right, I want to expand to Philippines, and suddenly extremely surprised that they don't have the same kind of tech as in Indonesia for money in, or they're not really quite there yet. I think it's a big challenge. That's why we need to be there for them. And you know, it might be again a different challenge if they're going to go to Malaysia or Vietnam or other markets in Southeast Asia. So I think that's why we need to be able to go and expand out where the merchants are requesting us to do so. I think a lot of companies, by the way, has not been able to be successful to expand to these other markets because they don't understand that not all of Southeast Asia is alike. I think if you're going to try to replicate that playbook that has been successful in Indonesia in a place that's very, you know, high culture context to another country where the culture or the high culture context might be different, I think then you're kidding yourself. So that's why I think Xendit's been able to be extremely successful. We hire local people. We understand what localization is about. We don't pretend that, hey, we're going to replicate everything that's been in Indonesia to other markets, but we are able to translate those pain points, find the solutions, and then provide something that's standardized to our merchants, which is, yeah, super exciting.
How much of what you've done in Indonesia can be replicated to Philippines?
Yeah, I think in terms of providing world-class APIs, the platforms that, the interfaces that our merchants are interacting with, that we can standardize across the region. But in terms of the tech itself, I think the underlying tech in payments, I think actually what's really interesting in that we've been able to go to the Philippines, leapfrog some of the stuff that we've been working on in Indonesia. What that is, for example, in Indonesia, most people are paying via bank transfer. So we're still trying to we're trying to improve that technology. In the Philippines, we've been able to roll out direct debit. And that's because in the Philippines, payments is still a bit more early stage. So we can actually work with the banks, with financial institutions, go, you know what, let's skip bank transfers altogether. Let's work on this real direct debit, make payments even more simple and more frictionless. And that's really what we've done in the Philippines, is actually leapfrog some of the stuff we've done in Indonesia, provide even more cooler stuff in market.
Right. What about plans to expand into other countries?
Yeah, I mean, that's been in the pipeline. That's one of the three pillars that we're working on. We don't know yet which market. That's what we're going to be doing this year, is to really assess where's that need, where's the push from customers. But we're really excited about countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, obviously. Around the region, these names probably not new. I think a lot of other startups are probably ticking those boxes too. But I'm sure the pain points are real, and we will think about those markets when the customers push us to go.
Right. Any plans to expand outside of Southeast Asia? Is there a place for Xendit outside of Southeast Asia?
Well, I think that's going to be really, really tough. As I said, even Southeast Asia itself has been a really big challenge, right? Each country is not really the same. So I think what we'd look to do probably is to really take on that market in Southeast Asia and then expand out our product offerings to other different types of products. That's probably the most likely case, rather than expanding out to different countries outside of Southeast Asia.
Got it. And coming on to your earlier point about female in Indonesia's tech sector, one of the experiences that I had when I was in Japan as a reporter was that whenever I go and talk to companies, it's always men in their 50s or maybe in their 60s talking to me. I seldom met female figures in senior roles. I come over here, there's so many female entrepreneurs, female leaders. Is that the case in Indonesia tech as well? Are there lots of female leaders coming up in Indonesia's tech space?
When we're talking about the general tech space, yes, definitely so. But when we're talking about fintech, maybe not quite as many, because I think tech is already a very specialized technical industry. Then you're talking about fintech, right, which is even more specific and technical. And I think the reason for that is, a lot of women are not encouraged to go into that space. A lot of women are intimidated by the technical nature of that space. So I think definitely a lot more can be done. And by the way, you're right. There are a lot of female entrepreneurs in Indonesia, but if you're looking at the statistics, developers in Indonesia, female developers in Indonesia, that's almost non-existent, right? Female engineers. A lot of women who are coming and participating in the economy are still doing it in more quote unquote traditional roles, right? Even for me, right, being the COO, it's a non-technical role. It's still a little bit more common than someone coming in as a CTO of a company. So I'm hoping, I'm really paving the way for women to look and say, okay, there are other choices. I can explore these industries. I can go into finance. I can go into tech, and I can go to something a little bit more complex like fintech. And that's okay. That's acceptable. Something really exciting that I really want to push going forward.
Your point about female developers is very interesting. But let me play the devil's advocate here and ask, maybe something that's not politically correct in this current environment. Why do we need female developers?
Why do we need female developers? Why do we need female anything? I mean, the first things first, right? And females make up probably about 50% of the population. So if you're saying we don't need female developers, you're saying we don't need the brain of 50% of the population, right? The second thing is diversity. Whether you're a developer, you're on the business side, whether you're in the operations side, diversity is always extremely important because it allows you to see or solve problems from different angles. So I think definitely female developers are needed. It's needed so that we can build better products. It's needed so that we can be a lot more creative about how we problem solve. So I think definitely we should not be saying, hey, don't look at 50% population. We should be saying, how do we get the 50% population to be able to participate in specific industry, specific skill sets, so we can improve the products that we roll out to the market.
Do you think we as in Indonesia and Southeast Asia need to adopt something like a quota system like we see in the US?
A quota system.
Like have 30%, 50% female developers, 30% of the board needs to be female.
Look, I think that's probably an overly simplistic solution. I think in Indonesia, you'll probably see that from the schooling, even from your schooling days, there are very, very few women who are participating in STEM, for example. So I don't think the quota system is going to solve much. We, for example, at Xendit, try to encourage women developers to apply to us. We try to encourage people to find referrals of female devs. It's still extremely hard. If you're looking at Xendit overall, 40% of our workforce is female, but the drop off when it comes to the tech side or the dev side, I think there are only about less than 10% of the workforce is female. And that's not because we haven't looked. I think even if we had a quota, I don't think that would even be met. So I think the way we go forward, the way we improve the chances of finding or developing female talent is really an education as well as encouragement from when they're younger, because there's just a lacking of talent out there. I hope that answers your question.
Will Xendit come up with any programs to develop female developers, nurture female developers?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been working with this Women in Tech movement. We work with, a bunch of different other movements as well to be able to coach young girls, to be able to go into tech, to encourage young girls to take up STEM. Definitely, this is something that I'm extremely passionate about. And going forward, I'd love to do more on this to encourage girls to join the tech world because it's extremely exciting.
But 40% of your workforce is female. That's staggering. I think that's something that everyone should follow in Xendit footsteps. I think our time is nearly up. If there's any last thoughts that you're hankering to share with us, Tessa?
Yeah, sure. So I think, again, we're coming back looking at Southeast Asia. It's a really exciting time to be here. I think the pandemic has definitely accelerated the move to the digital space for Indonesia and other countries in Southeast Asia. I think we're really in the beginnings of something really exciting. If you're looking at the payment space, it's still very fragmented. It's still a race to the top. We don't know who the winners are going to be. So I think for a lot of you guys out there who are listening in, it's time to stay tuned. And I think the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a lot of exciting development in the tech space.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us, Tessa. Thank you everyone for joining in.
Thanks so much.